Professor Halse, Honorable Vice Chancellor of this esteemed institution, Karnataka State Open University, Professor K.S. Rangappa, former esteemed Vice Chancellor of KSOU and former member of AIU Governing Council. It's a very prestigious position. Only the Vice Chancellors, when they become senior, they get this opportunity and privilege to become the AIU Governing Council member. So, Honorable Sir, thank you very much for being here, and we are really honored indeed to have him here. Dr. Shadrach, a very close friend, we have worked together, the CEO, the Director of Commonwealth Educational Media Center for Asia, SEMCA, a very seasoned academician, Professor Sanjay Tiwari, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Durg University, Professor Prithvi Rani from KSOU, and the esteemed registrar of this institution, Professor Ramanathan, Professor Nataraju, esteemed faculty members of this institution, and the delegates, those who have come to attend this conference today, students, faculty members, and organizing team of this magnificent event. At the outset, I welcome you to this inaugural session of such a nice event which holds importance, especially at a time when higher education system across the globe is undergoing massive transformation, massive changes. The changes was so sharp, so rapid, and so transformative that it has presented us some sort of uncertainty before us. We are in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. Today, the engineering student getting enrolled in one of the engineering programs is not sure and certain. After 4 years of passing out, having the engineering degree, whether the knowledge and skills will be relevant or not, or it will change, and the student will need some additional skill. This type of uncertainties are there, and we are passing through. As higher education community, we are passing through and witnessing a tumultuous time in the entire higher education landscape in the entire world. Friends, I have 15 minutes of time. I will speak only to the point, to my mind only, what I think in the context of relevance of open and distance learning, and what we can envision its future perspectives. Before that, before I get into the business for which I stand here, let me acknowledge 2 points. One point of Dr. Nataraju about AIU. That's your organization. Many of you may not be knowing about the organization. The second point about the relevance of the ODL system. In between, I would like to make a passing reference to Madam Host, who presented a quotation of Nelson Mandela, one of the tallest leader in the world, tallest not in height, but in intellectual height. Height, so far as vision is concerned, so far as leadership is concerned. Most of you might be familiar with the issue of apartheid system in South Africa. Rangbhed, discrimination on the basis of color. The black people, they were being mistreated in South Africa by the white people. Discrimination against birth, color, all these things were there. It was, and it was happening since long. Human right blatantly being violated. The black people were being exploited, tortured. And it was the visionary leader of the world, Nelson Mandela, who fought against the color discrimination, who was behind the bar, and he spent 25 years of a precious time of his life behind the bar. Finally, he emerged victorious. South Africa got a new president in the form of Nelson Mandela. That is what the visionary leader, he has said about education, that education is the most powerful instrument for changing the society or transforming the society. Friends, Association of Indian Universities was born in March 23, 1925, at least more than 15 years before the independence of our country. Such a necessity was felt during the British Viceroy's conference organized at Simla. The British Viceroy then, he was having some interest in education. Otherwise, he was a political man. He was responsible for companies' affair and governing India, all those things. He was responsible for the political administration of the country. Somehow, he was having some interest and passion for education. He called the meeting of the, in 25, around 21 universities were there in our country. He called the meeting. After interacting with the vice chancellors, he got to know that something is missing. There is a gap in the academic flavor, interaction, and continuity. And he wrote in his anecdote, in his repository, in his account, he wrote that Indian academia are extremely well, excellent so far as independent working is concerned. You pick up a scientist, pick up a professor, teacher, any intellectual person in India, scholarly person, finds comfort in working alone. Given an opportunity or situation to work in a team or group, they fail miserably. This was the observation of the then Viceroy. Then what he envisioned, he thought that the strong and robust academic environment of India, the academic air, needs to be filled with some agreeable clamor. And that is possible if we establish an organization that will represent the universities, the tall intellectual leaders. It will be an organization of thought leaders, change makers, and speed makers also. It will liaise between universities, other higher education institutions. It will work on restoring and maintaining university autonomy as an autonomous entity. It will be suggesting the government of India on matters of higher education policy and many more objectives. Let me cut short the story, just giving you the most important points which you must know. In 1925, March 23, 1925, Association of Indian Universities saw the light of the day, and the name was Inter-University Board of India and Shillong. Gradually, it started working, a lot of things happened. Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, I am proud indeed to say that Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, the second president of India, was the president of AIU. Dr. Zakir Hussain, Syama Prasad Mukherjee, Shiv Mangal Singh Suman, K.L. Shrimali, some of the social thinkers, educational stalwarts, eminent personalities of our country, they have given leadership to this esteemed organization called Association of Indian Universities. Association of Indian Universities was performing all the tasks of our University Grants Commission till 1956. when there was a demand from the government of India that we will take over total complete control over AIU, the Vice Chancellor opposed, protested. They said, no, we are helping you, supporting you as a think tank body, but we cannot come under the direct administrative control of the government. We will lose our autonomy. Better you establish another organization which will be undertaking these functions like grant giving, devising norms, this and that. We will intervene when there are some policy issues. And that happened. UGC was established with the recommendation of AIU in 1956. And in 1967, AIU received its legal status. It was registered through Society Registration Act. Then in 1975, the name of AIU, Inter-University Board, was changed and it was renamed, rechristened as the Association of Indian Universities. And later, in 1975 or 76 around, Ministry, by giving grant, established a research division, making it a think tank organization. And this is the organization, we are celebrating our 100 years this year, and a lot of activities we are organizing. Some of them already, Dr. Raju is already informed. And this organization has a distinct feature, and it is distinct in three respects. Number one, such a large network, vast network of universities nowhere in the world exists. AIU has the distinct credit of being the largest network of the universities and university association in the world, having around 1100 universities under its ambit. Second, this is the second oldest university association in the world, next to ACU, Association of Commonwealth Universities, which was established in 1930. Next establishment is in 1925. And third one, no university association in the world, whether it is America, Russia, your Netherlands, Australia, Germany, Japan, nobody caters to the need of a whole range of stakeholders, starting from student up to the level of chancellors. Right? Three distinct things. And the last point about AIU is that you might be knowing Kapil Sharma, Chandan Prabhakar, Sugandha Mishra, Ashutosh Rana, Ashish Vidyarthi, Neeraj Chopra, the javelin thrower. All these products, Dipti Chand, Duti Chand, all these are the products, they are from AIU. Their talent has been unfolded, nurtured by the platform given by AIU, whether it is sports platform or youth affairs. Right? So this is the reputation of AIU. Second part, relevance of ODL. Friends, universities are the guardians of the socialistic and humanistic tradition of the nation. They have a big mandate. Their mandate is not confined only to teaching, not confined to only exploration of new knowledge through research. Their mandate is also creating and developing and nurturing the future leaders, those who will be shouldering the future responsibility. Today, Professor Halse sir is the Vice Chancellor. Tomorrow, आप में से someone from you, when you get into the seniority level, you will give leadership to this organization. You will take our positions. What we are doing, helping government, discharging our responsibility, many of you will be discharging those responsibilities. So, it is the bounden duty of the higher education institutions and universities to create future leaders. And in this process, the contribution of open and distance learning institutions is enormous. It's a really big. You imagine the first clarion call on inclusive education and access was given to this country through 1948 Education Commission, 1952 Second Year Mudaliar Commission, 64 Dr. Kothari Commission, and thereafter many more documents. The list is unending. And finally, structured, purposeful, and intensive effort was made by the Government of India to work seriously on proliferation of education, making the education reach to the unreached, right? Through the 11th five-year plan, where 3 E's were emphasized: expansion, equity and excellence. Expansion includes the access, providing access to education. Our country is a diverse one. The diversity exists with respect to geographical climate, geographical location, climatic conditions, hostile terrains. We have deserts, we have mountain hilly areas like Uttarakhand, Himachal, we have northeast states, so the diversity is very vast. Many places are there where electricity was not there, educational opportunity facilities were not there. Abhi bhi, till now also, it's not there in many of the things. So it's a gigantic task, a Herculean task to reach out to those people with the formal educational opportunities. Here came the role of open and distance education. Started as a practice, as correspondence courses, then open and distance learning. Finally, setting up, I think in our country, I can share you some data. Right now, there must be 17, 18 state open universities and one central level, that is National Open University, IGNOU. Can you imagine that in providing access to the deprived, socio-economically disadvantaged group, the people, those who are already working professionals, they do not have time to enter into the conventional mode of education. And they cannot get that kind of flexibility. Open and distance learning has always been, I will not say an alternative, rather a parallel supporting robust system that has massively contributed to increase the enrollment percentage in higher education, making the education reaching at the doorstep of people who were finding difficult to have education, and simplifying the complex process of educational delivery. That's one of the very, very important points. I'm sorry. Friends, Dr. Nataraju had requested for a paper. I have drafted. It's in final stage. It will be published in the proceedings. There, see, we are in the digital era. Being researchers, we know data is our instrument. We interpolate, extrapolate, analyze, synthesize data, and on the basis of some empirical evidence only, we give insight to the intellectual discourse. Since we are in the digital era, everything is digitized. Everywhere we have statistics, figures, numbers. We are sitting, rather in my language I say, we are sitting on mass debris of data. I don't want to load you more with giving data, but I can very succinctly say that it is the ODL, Open and Distance Learning System, that has proved to be a boon for the nation, not only for our nation, world over. You imagine, given an understanding, only Karnataka State Open University has around 50,000 enrollment. I was interacting with someone. 1 lakh. Oh, massive in number. You imagine, if Karnataka State Open University has only 1 lakh enrollment, imagine we have mega universities like IGNOU. It must be having more than crores of enrollment. And this has provided a respite, a relief, a larger degree of flexibility to the students, those who have been dropped out, to the housewife, to the armed professionals, to the other professionals, those who are engaged in industry and they don't have time and convenience for going for the conventional mode of education. So all these several issues have been addressed, supported by the ODL system, right? And there are many benefits. You people belong to the stream of open education system. So my second point is that it will be relevant. The question is just exactly like this. When computer came, There is a speculation among the academic fraternity, especially the teachers, that computer will take our job. Not only teachers, many even administrative people, clerks, that the computer will take our job. That didn't happen. Computer became a tool and it facilitated our work, it catalyzed our work rather than replacing us. Same thing, there is a larger degree of perception issues by the teachers. They are having apprehension and speculation that the artificial intelligence, robots now teaching in the classroom may replace the teachers. Friends, trust me, it's not going to happen as long as you are keeping abreast of the changes, you are familiarizing yourself, orienting yourself and acquiring the skills of working with the artificial intelligence. See, as long as we keep the technology as our slaves and we act as masters, things go fine. Many a times, because of personal issues, laziness, or a misperception about technology or misplaced priority, we do not acquire the latest technology, skills of working with the latest technology. If this happens, then we may be replaced by the robots. But the human interaction, postures, gestures, right, that teaching, that aspect can never be replaced by any machine, any tools or any instruments. Therefore, the ODL has been inherently a part of the entire process of education system. Today, it is so deeply ingrained ODL system that nobody can replace it, not anybody can eliminate it. So it was relevant in the past, it holds the relevance today, and I am sure it will keep continuing having its relevance even years to come. Because addressing the educational need of such a large, massive population and accommodating the societal challenges, the tectonic shift the society is undergoing is not possible, cannot be imagined without the support of ODL, or Open and Distance Learning System. Friends, it has a bright future perspective because the concepts like walk-in admission, on-demand examination. I have overshot my time, friends. I would have discussed share many interesting points, but I have to stick to the time. We have a number of speakers. Just let me share one thing, that the way number of ODL institutions has increased in the country, number of enrollment has increased sizably in the country, and the concepts like walk-in admission, on-demand examination, cafeteria approach, the whole gamut of activities is revolving around student flexibility. There was a time when education was conceived to be a bipolar process. It is a business between the teacher and the taught to be transacted. Later, I am just reducing the cut-shorting the story. Later, some educationists said, no, education is not a bipolar process. It has to be considered as a tripolar process. Teacher, student, but the teacher and student transaction has to be based on a curriculum, syllabus. That is the third pillar or third pole. So education was defined to be a tripolar process. But with the integration of technology today, your student is a smart student, your classroom is a smart classroom, you have a smart boards, flipped classroom, problem-based learning, scaffold learning, some of the latest and new pedagogy, they are bringing heralding change, massive changes in the pedagogy of higher education. So student flexibility, that has become, education has become a quadrupolar process, and student flexibility, we have a ceremonious departure from a teacher-centric, curriculum-centric education towards student-centric approach. And in the student-centric approach, you remember those days that if you do not comply with the dates published in the prospectus of a university for applying for the admission, then the start of the course, then the examination and the declaration of result, all dates are already published in the prospectus. And if you missed any date, 1 year is gone. To give compensation of that academic loss to the students, students do not suffer, do not find any academic loss. First concept is walk-in admission. While going through, there is Karnataka State Open University, there is a 6 months course. You are interested to do it, go to the admission, registrar admission or admission, whosoever the dignitary, the functionary is in charge of admission, you tell that I am ready to get enrolled in this course. Then and there your admission will be there. After 6 months, usually we used to wait to the university to declare the date of examination, because they have to conduct the examination in a mass manner. But now such volume, such kind of student flexibility is coming that after 6 months, at any time go to your institution, ask them, I am ready, my course tenure is over, I can appear for the examination. There is a question bank virtually existing. They will pull out a question paper. It will be totally distinct and different, and one person examination will be done. This is called as on-demand examination. Everything will be digitally connected. So, bringing student flexibility, addressing to the diverse student population, need of the diverse population, and in many more things, distance education has really assumed a very significantly important role, and its role and relevance is never going to be over or finished. In future also, large number of students, those who do not want to afford and invest their time to the formal system of education, they are looking in a wide eye to join the ODL system. So therefore, it is very relevant today. I congratulate to the organizers, Honorable Vice Chancellor and the coordinator of this program, Dr. Nataraju, for selecting this theme of topical importance and organizing a physical conference in an open system and deliberating on an open system, right? It's really magnificent. I would request each one of you to give a big clapping to the organizers. Big clapping. So friends, usually I conclude my speech by citing a Vedic hymn, Vedic shloka. I belong to a large, strong Vedic family. I am reciting a shloka. If it is required to be translated, I will do that. If you are satisfied, I will leave it. Nalini dalagata, this is from Kathopanishad. Nalini dalagata jalam api taralam, tabata janamati atisaya chapalam. Nalini dalagata jalam api taralam, tabata janamati atisaya chapalam, kyanam api sankati sajanne reka bhavati bhavannave tarane nauka. Do I need to translate? If the voice is not saying ki yes, then I will leave. Nalini, this lotus leaf. One lotus leaf is floating on a water surface, water body. It may be sea, river, pond, a small water body having little bit collection of water, whatever. But there is a lotus leaf and it's floating, and on the lotus leaf, a small bubble of water is just tilting with the influence of little bit of air movement. Okay? So life of that bubble of water is so volatile, so fragile. It can be dropped into the water with a little push of air, and the life of that bubble finishes there. That is over there. Exactly like that, human mind, human body, human thinking, everything is chala chanchal and chala chapal, fragile, volatile. Under such a circumstance, if we get company of some guni, jnani, vidwan, scholars, that helps us माया रूपक नहीं ज्ञान रूपक समुद्र को पार करने के लिए, to cross the ocean of knowledge, it helps like a boat. With these small words, मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देना चाहूँगा. नमस्कार, जय हिंद, and बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद for giving me a patient hearing.